big trip to Europe. I saved every cent, and then suddenly I blew it all on a big glorious trip to Europe or any place, and I felt light and gay too. Took a few months, but I finally bought a ticket on a Yugoslavian freighter bound from Brooklyn Bush Terminal for Tangier, Morocco. On February morning in 1957, we sailed. I had a whole double stateroom to myself, all my books, peace, quiet, and study. For once, I was going to be a writer who didn't have to do other people's work. Gas tank cities of America fading beyond the waves. Here we go across the Atlantic now on a run that takes 12 days to Tangier, that sleepy Arabic port on the other side. And after the west wave land had receded beneath the Cap Lake, bang, we hit a bit of a tempest that builds up till Wednesday morning. The waves are 2-story high, coming in over our bow and crashing over and frothing in my cabin window enough to make any old sea dog duck. And those poor Yugoslavian buggers out there sent to lash loose trucks and fiddle with halyards and punchy whistling lines in that salt Burapoosh gale. Blam. And it wasn't until later I learned these hardy Slavs had 2 little kitty cats stashed away below decks, and after the storm had abated, and I had seen the glowing white vision of God in my tremors, and thought to think we might have to lower the boats away in the hopeless mess of mountainous seas. Pow, 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 the waves coming in harder and harder, higher and higher, till Wednesday morning when I looked out of my porthole from a restless tri-sleep on my belly with pillows on each side of me to prevent me from pitching, I look and see a wave so immense and Jonah-like coming at me from starboard. I just can't believe it. I just can't believe I got on that Yugoslav freighter for my big trip to Europe at the wrong time. Just the boat that would carry me indeed to the other shore, to go join Coral Heart Crane in those undersea gardens. The poor little kitty cats, though, when the storms abated and moon come out and looked like a dark olive prophesying Africa. Oh, the history of the world is full of olives. Here are the 2 little swickled jaws sitting facing each other on a calm 8 o'clock hatch in the calm Popeye moonlight of the sea hag, and finally I got them to come in my stateroom and purr on my lap as we thereafter gently swayed to the other shore, the Afric shore, and not the one death'll take us to. But in the moment of the storm, I wasn't so cocky as I am now writing about it. I was certain it was the end, and I did see that everything is God, that nothing ever happened except God. The raging sea, the poor groomless lonesome boat sailing beyond every horizon, and with big long tortured body, and with no arbitrary conception of any awakened worlds or any myriads of angel flower bearing devas honoring the place where the diamond was studied, pitching like a bottle in that howling void. But soon enough the fairy hills and honey thighs of the sweethearts of Africa, the dogs, cats, chickens, Berbers, fish heads, and curly locks singing keeners of the sea with its merry star, and the White House lighting, lighthouse mysterioso supine. What was that storm anyway? I managed to ask by means of signs and pig English of my blond cabin boy, "Go up on mast, be blond peep." And he says to me only, "Burapoosh, Burapoosh," with big poosh of his lips, which later from English-speaking passenger I learned means only north wind, that name given for north wind in the Adriatic. Only passenger on the ship beside myself is a middle-aged, ugly woman with glasses, a Yugoslavian Iron Curtain Russian spy, for sure sailed with me so she could study my passport in secret in the captain's cabin at night and then forge it, and then finally I never gets to Tangier, but am hid below sides and taken to Yugoslavia forever. Nobody hears from me ever again, and the only thing I don't suspect the crew of the red ship, with her red star of the blood of the Russias on the stack, is of starting the tempest that almost done us and folded us over the olive of the sea. That was how bad it was, in fact, and I began to have reverse paranoid reveries that they themselves were holding conclaves in the Seaway Lantern forecastle, saying, "That capitalist scum American on board is a Jonah. The storm has come because of him. Throw him over." So I lie there on my bunk, rolling violently from side to side, dreaming of how it will be with me. Thrun in the ocean out there, with her 80-mile-an-hour sprays coming off the top of waves high enough to swamp the Bank of America. How the whale, if it can get to me before I drown upside down, will indeed swallow me and leave me in its groomistic interior to go salt me off its tipped tongue on some, O God Almighty, on some cross shore and the last curly lock forbidden unknown seashore. I'll be laying on the beach, Jonah, with my vision of the ribs. In real life, though all it is, the sailors weren't particularly worried by the immense seas. To them, just another burapoosh. To them, just only what they call very bad weather. And in the dining room there I am evening alone at the long white tablecloth with the Russian spy woman facing her dead center, a continental seating arrangement that prevents me from relaxing in my chair and staring into space as I eat or wait for the next course. It's tuna fish and olive oil and olives for breakfast. It's salted fish for breakfast. What I wouldn't have given for some peanut butter and milkshakes, I can't say. I can say the Scotch near invented seas like that to put the mouse scare in the hem, haw, roll plan. But the pearl of the water, the swinging whirl, the very glisten, remembered white cap flick in high winds, the vision of God I had as being all and the same myself, the ship, the others, the dreary kitchen, the dreary slob kitchen of the sea with her swaying pots in the grey gloom as though the pots know they're about to contain fish stew in the serious kitchen below the kitchen of the serious sea, the swaying and clank clank. Oh, that old ship though, with all her long hull, which at first in Brooklyn dock I'd secretly thought, my God, it is too long. Now is not long enough to stay still in the immense playfulnesses of God, plowing on, and shuddering all iron. And two, after I'd thought, why do they have to spend a whole day here in Gas Tank Majoon Town in New Jersey? What's the name? Perth Amboy, with a big black sinister, I must say, hose bent and over from the gas dog pumping in and pumping in quietly all that whole Sunday, with lowering winter skies, all orange flare crazy, and nobody on the long empty pier when I go out to walk after the olive oil supper but one guy, my last American, walking by looking at me, a little fishy, thinking I'm a member of the Red Crew, pumping in all day, filling those immense fuel tanks of the old Slovenia. But once we're at sea in that God storm, I'm so glad and grown to think we did spend all day loading fuel. How awful it would have been to run out of fuel in the middle of that storm and just bob there helpless, turning this way and that. To escape the storm on that Wednesday morning, for instance, the captain simply turned his back to it. He could never take it from the side, only front or back, the roll-in biggies. And when he did make his turn about 8 a.m., I thought we were going to founder for sure. The whole ship, with that unmistakable rack snap, went swiftly to the other side. With elastic bounce, you could feel she was coming back the other way, all the way. The waves from Burapoosh helped, hanging on to the porthole and looking out. Not cold, but spray in my face. Here we go pitching over again into an upcoming sea rise, and I'm looking face to face with a vertical wall of sea. The ship jerks, the keel holds, the long keel underneath us now, a little fish flapper after in the dock. I thought, how deep these piers slip, flapper after in the dock. How deep these pier slips have to be hold in those long keels so they won't scrape bottom. Over we go, the waves wash onto the deck. My porthole and face is splashed completely. The water spills into my bed. Oh, my bed, the sea. And over again, the other way. Then as steady as she goes as the captain gets to Slovenia around with her back to the storm and we flee south. Soon enough, I thought we'd be deep with inward stare in an endless womb bliss, drowned in the grinning sea that restores impossibly. Oh, snowy arms of God, I saw his arms there on the side of the Jacob's ladder, place where, if we had to disembark and go over, as though lifeboats would do anything but crash like splinter against the ship's side in that madness, the white personal face of God telling me, Tijan, don't worry. If I take you today and all the other poor devils on this tub, it's because nothing ever happened except me. Everything is me. Or as the Lankavatara scripture says, there's nothing in the world but mind itself. There's nothing in the world but the golden eternity of God's mind, I say. I saw the words, everything is God, nothing ever happened except God, writ in milk on that seed dip. Bless you, an endless train into an endless graveyard is all this life is. But it was never anything but God, nothing else but that. So the higher the monstrous thinker comes fooling and calling me down names, the more I shall joy old Rembrandt with my bare cup and wrestle all the Tolstoy kidders in this side of finger twick. Pluck as you will, and Afric will reach, and did reach anyway. And if I learnt a lesson, it was lesson in white. Radiate all you will, sweet darkness, and bring ghosts and angels, so we'll put right along to the tree shore, the rocky shore, the final swan salt. Oh, Ezekiel, for came that afternoon so sweet and calm and Mediterranean like when we began to see land. 'Twasn't till I saw the keen little grin on the captain's face as he gazed through his binoculars I really believed it. But finally I could see it myself, Africa. I could see the cuts in the mountains, the dry Aurora rills before I could see the mountains themselves, and finally did see them, pale green gold, not knowing till about 5 they were really the mountains of Spain. Old Hercules was somewhere up there ahead, holding up the world on his shoulders, thus the hush and glassy silence of these entryways to Aspered. Sweet Mary Star ahead, and all the rest, and further on too I could see Paris, my big clay vision, Paris, where I'd go off a train at outside town Peuple du Pays and walk 5 miles deeper and deeper as in a dream into the city of Paris itself, arriving finally at some golden center of it in vision I envisioned then, which was silly as it turned out, as though Paris had a center. Faint little white dots at the foot of the long green Africa mountains, and yes, sirree, there was the sleepy little Arab city of Tangier waiting for me to explore it that night. So I go down into my stateroom and keep checking my rucksack to see if it's all well packed and ready for me to swing down the gangplank with and get my passport stamped with Arabic figures. Away, okay. Meanwhile, a lot of trade going by. Boats, several beat Spanish freighters you could believe so beat, bleak, small, that have to face Bora pushes with nothing but half our length and half our girth, and over there the long stretches of sand on the shore of Spain, indicative of drier caddises that I have dreamed, yet I still insisted on dreaming of the Spanish Cape, the Spanish Star, the Spanish gutter song. And finally, one amazing little Moroccan fishing boat putting out to sea with a small crew of about 5, in sloppy catch Mohammed pants, some of them, balloony pantaloons they wear in case they give birth to Mohammed, and some with red fezzes, but red fezzes like you never thought they'd be, real fezzes with, wow, grease and creases and dust on them, real red fezzes of real life and real Africa, the wind blowing, and the little fishing sloop with its incredible high poop made of Lebanon wood, putting out to the curly lock song of the sea, the stars all night, the nets, the twang of Ramadan. Of course, world travel isn't as good as it seems. It's only after you'd come back from all the heat and horror that you forget to get bugged and remember the weird scenes you saw. In Morocco, I went for a walk one beautiful, cool, sunny afternoon with breeze from Gibraltar, and my friend and I walked to the outskirts of the weird Arab town, commenting on the architecture, the furniture, the people, the sky, which he said would look green at nightfall, and the quality of the food in the various restaurants around town, adding he did. Besides, I'm just a hidden agent from another planet, and the trouble is I don't know why they sent me. I've forgotten the goddamn message, dearie, so I say I'm a messenger from heaven, too. And suddenly we saw a herd of goats coming down the road, and behind it an Arab shepherd boy of 10 who held a little baby lamb in his arms, and behind him came the mother lamb bleating and baa-haing for him to take real good extra special care of the babe, which the boy said, Egraya, fai, katpata, katapata, fayata, and spat it out of his throat in the way Semites speak. I said, "Look, a real shepherd boy carrying a baby lamb." And Bill said, "Oh, well, the little prigs are always rushing around carrying lambs." Then we walked down the hill to a place where a holy man, or that is, a devout Mohammedan, kneeled praying to the setting sun towards Mecca. And Bill turned to me and said, "Wouldn't it be wonderful if we were real American tourists?" And I suddenly rushed up with a camera to snap his picture. Then added, "By the way, how do we walk around him?" "Around his right," I said anyway. We wended our way homeward to the chatty outdoor cafe, where all the people gathered at nightfall beneath screaming trees of birds near the Soco Grande, and decided to follow the railroad track. It was hot, but the breeze was cool from the Mediterranean. We came to an old Arab hobo sitting on the rail of the track recounting the Koran to a bunch of raggedy children listening attentively, or at least obediently. Behind them was their mother's house, a tin hut. There she was in blue, hanging white and blue and pink wash in front of a pale blue tin hovel in the bright African sun. I didn't know what the holy man was doing.